Jordan himself said that he never envisioned Randland as the Middle Ages, though. Like, he always envisioned it as essentially a Renaissance sans gunpowder.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 16th, 17th century is kind of what he was ballparking there.
Yeah.
Vaguely that time period, just minus gunpowder.
Yeah.
You know.
Which is funny. I mean, I think we're already spilling into topic material, but
yeah, of course.
I think the context of fantasy at large, and especially like the context of sword and sorcery, the ubiquitous, medieval setting of sword and sorcery may predispose me to assume this was Middle Ages with it,
right?
It's like Second World Middle Ages.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people did that, right? So.
Yeah.
Hey,
right.
before we get too deep into this, let's go ahead and transition with an opening. How about that?
We haven't. Have we not done that?
No, we haven't done that. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Gleemen show here.
Hi, Vance.
Hey, Drew. How's it going? My name is Vance, joined with my good friend Drew via Zoom, thanks to social distancing that we are very, very, very cautiously observing here in our little town.
Well, Drew has a newborn. Well, like a 4-month-old, so we're
still basically a newborn.
Extra carefully observing.
Right. I mean, compared to both of us, that's a newborn, right?
Yeah.
So
I never knew why people talked about how many weeks old their child was. I thought that was a little superfluous and just like a weird parent flex. But then I found out that in a week, they kind of go from potato to like moderately developed pet. And then in like 2 or 3 more weeks, they're like a little human grabbing things and smiling at you.
You just compared a human baby to a pet.
And a potato.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the potato thing is fair. They kind of look like them for a while.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of felt like a houseplant that you utterly adore.
Right.
For, I don't know, a couple weeks.
Right.
I'm sure every woman who's going to watch this is going to be like, wow, that's a pig.
It'll be okay.
With that note.
On that note, welcome to the show, everyone.
I love my son, and he's very cool.
So, I guess today we're going to discuss. I do a little bit of an intro and talk about how we got into Wheel of Time, just a little bit, and then we'll just kind of freeform after we get through that. How's that sound?
Yeah. Do we want to make a point of saying that this is a spoiler-free? This is intended to be a spoiler-free conversation?
I would argue that this might turn spoiler-filled since it's just you and me. Now, if we
you think so?
if we had anyone who is currently reading the books, we would obviously attempt to do spoiler-free. Well, let's just say spoilers through at least the Great Hunt. I don't think we're going to get too much farther than that.
Yeah.
So,
give me spoilers, kind of a soft Dragon Reborn spoilers.
Okay.
Because I kind of have a pet obsession with the early bookisms, and you at least have to mention some things from like Dragon Reborn to give that context.
So we'll say spoilers through the Dragon Reborn. Spoilers through book 3.
Okay.
For anyone out there currently reading the series, if you're past book 3, you're clear to watch. If you are not past book 3, click off now and come back later. The video will be here. So.
Or just listen and have a great time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I encountered so many spoilers on my first read through that I just could not remember due to the just dearth of information that Jordan dumps on you. So, I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. Whatever.
That's actually a great segue to how did we get into the Wheel of Time, because ironically, the way I got it... The very first time I saw Wheel of Time was in, like, 2000... Oh, man, what year was that? Like... 2 or 3?
Right, yeah.
Like one of my friends in school was literally I still have a mental image of him reading The Lord of Chaos in math class. And I was like, oh, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's this really cool book. You wouldn't like it. I'm like, okay, whatever. So fast forward a few years after I'd read The Lord of the Rings, and then someone tipped me off. It's like, hey, if you like Lord of the Rings, you probably like this.
Right.
and then down the rabbit hole I went.
Right.
And as we all know, Al Gore invented the internet, but it wasn't really meaningful until like 2007 to 2009-ish.
I'll speak for yourself there, buddy.
When you live in rural Arkansas and you have enough farm chores to occupy your time, the internet wasn't a big part of my life at that point.
Well, I mean, you probably just had dial-up. Let's be real. I lived in suburbia in Arkansas, we had cable. Okay, so.
Whoa.
I know, right?
Dude, not only could you not get cable where I lived, neither could you get pizza or mail.
Yeah, you were living in like the 60s. Anyway.
Yeah, basically. I had to take a sip and let that sink in.
Yeah.
So all that to say, when I read The Wheel of Time, I read up through book 9. When I hit book 9, I was current with the publishing date.
Right.
And I think it was 9. Maybe it was like 10 whenever I got current. But I didn't get any spoilers. I had talked to one guy in real life who didn't really like to talk about his favorite book series. So yeah, I had an essentially like isolated solo experience of books 1 through 9 to 10, and I'd read them like 6 times.
Right.
Which is funny because you read them in the internet in your face in your pocket era.
Yes.
Where you can't, if you show any interest online, you can't avoid spoilers.
Right, exactly. So. Yeah. So when I came to the series, kind of similar to you, it was after I read Lord of the Rings, but I went from Lord of the Rings, finished off Harry Potter, and then did like Wizard of Earthsea, just because I was still in like early high school, and that was.
I still have never read that.
Oh, you should pick it up. It's very good. I haven't read it in like 15 years. I'm due for a reread because I don't remember all that much about it. But anyway.
Ursula K. Le Guin, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, after I did that, I was looking for something else because I was still waiting on the last Harry Potter book to come out. And this was like 2005, I want to say. So what? Maybe I was a sophomore in high school, I think. Sophomore or junior. Can't really recall.
Didn't Harry Potter? Didn't the last one come out in like 06?
07, I thought. I thought it was 07.
07.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were in college when it came out.
No, we weren't. No, because
it came out. It came out the summer before we went to college. That's what it was.
That was it.
That's it.
Because I read. Yeah, my intro to Harry Potter was like one of my 2 best friends. Mm-hmm. She was utterly obsessed and had literally grown up with Harry Potter, and I had never read it. And me and my other best friend, we were determined to finish the last book before she did, call her and spoil the ending for her.
Oh, jeez, that's so mean.
Yeah, the caveat to which was I hadn't read any of it, and it was only like a week and a half away from the last book.
Yeah, but you can read the first 3 books in like 5 hours, and then you can read basically every other book within a day.
Yeah, so I think it was like it was less than 3 days that I binged the entire series, and that's actually the only time I've read so much fiction. I kind of was having a hard time telling reality apart from Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, I mean I've done a marathon reread of it like that before, and you do start to get kind of like so
yeah.
But
so anyway,
Anyway,
okay, so you had just finished Harry Potter,
right? Basically, I mean, got current with it, like the Half-Blood Prince I just finished or whatever. Whatever the current Harry Potter book was. So I was looking for something to read in between, and I was kind of tired of I knew Harry Potter was quote unquote YA. I was kind of tired of the YA scene.
Not by the end, though.
No. Well, it aged with its audience.
I guess still kind of.
It aged with its audience. So anyway, someone recommended me Wheel of Time. So I went out and I picked up Eye of the World, first book of the Wheel of Time, 2005. I read the prologue, was like, this is super confusing. It doesn't really tell me anything.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, the prologue.
Yeah, no, it really.
So that's one thing I want to hit on. The prologue for a first-time reader is not very good. It is so confusing.
Yeah.
Because you do not.
First-time reader.
You do not know what's happening.
I'm looking at you, first-time reader. What the heck?
Right.
Like, that prologue is... Okay. It's intended... It's obviously a hook. Like, the intention is a hook to draw you in. and some of the elements will make sense later, and some of the elements, and this cuts to my whole like what I call early bookisms thing. Some of the things he was trying to hook you and draw you into, he decided to change. Like there are some subtleties about how like the magic is portrayed in that prologue that actually change.
Subtleties, how the madness is slightly portrayed.
Yeah, that's true. The madness is portrayed a little different.
Just a little bit, not very much, but I think the tone is a little bit different there.
Yeah.
Than
although later in the books, man, we're really okay.
There we go. I mean, so
spoilers.
I told you, spoiler filled. Let's just mark it that way.
All right. So, in all fairness, it seems like every man, if you're new and you don't know what's happening, if you're a man who can do magic, you're gonna go nuts. That's the way this world works now. And you'll also kill everyone you love and rot to death. There's that.
Yep.
But it is the madness that all the men go through towards the end. It seems like each one kind of has an individualized psychosis.
Right.
You know, like some of them are schizophrenic, some of them are just idiotic in kind of the old-fashioned clinical sense.
Yep, or just jumping at shadows. In some cases, I mean, literally jumping at shadows. So I mean, it's it's very personalized by the end. Whereas at the beginning, it was painted in this more broad stroke of just like raving berserker madness almost.
Right.
So
which you could also so here's the second layer where I give it a buy. Maybe that was Luz Theron's unique flavor of madness, and maybe that was an artifact of the fact that they got hit with the initial full brunt wave of the taint.
Yeah.
Instead of getting it seeped in along the time.
Could be.
Hello, baby and wife. We're gonna trim this.
Yes, we'll edit this part out. So
I'll be back.
Yeah, go ahead. You're back.
This is the part where you like CGI me back in like I'm traveling.
So we had to cut away for a minute,
Capital
everybody.
T.
So So we had to cut away for a minute. Drew had to take care of some dad stuff.
You may or may not, depending upon the producer, have just seen my child.
We will see. We'll see how I can cut that up in post.
Don't cut my child up.
No. Oh. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway. So, got through. Anyway, I started reading it in 2005. Was a bit confused by the prologue, was hooked by the Two Rivers scenes in the first several chapters.
Charming.
Yep, fantastic. I definitely understand why people think Wheel of Time is a 100% G-rated, child-friendly fantasy series, because boy, those scenes set a super wholesome tone. Let me tell you. It's immediately destroyed directly afterwards.
By Narg.
Yes, by Narg. So, how you continue to think this series is G-rated is beyond me. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, ironically, okay. I'm just going to spoil it for everybody. In the midst of this idyllic G-rated scene, a terrifying eyeless monster man with chimeric 7-foot-tall beasts made of an amalgamation of man and beast burst into the scene and start killing people. So that happens.
Yeah, that definitely happens.
But because of my age when I read it, the kind of body horror aspect of the Trollocs, the amalgamated Chimera men, was largely lost on me.
I agree.
So
I agree with that.
I remember, like, my latest reread, I remembered to just come at it fresh, and they're freaky.
Oh yeah. I'm fresh off of a reread of The Eye of the World as well, and it was a lot different this time than the first time I read it. Anyway, let me get through my little spiel here. I essentially made it to chapter 10 in 2005, and I set Eye of the World down, and I didn't touch it again until 2010. I set it down for 5 years. I don't know why. I just couldn't work up the will to crack it back open and read it for some reason. Don't know why. Have no idea why I couldn't get past this just work up the will to read it. I'd actually already gotten The Great Hunt and The Dragon Reborn preemptively the week after I purchased Eye of the World, just because I was like, oh, I'm going to burn through this book. And I think that was probably my mistake, because then it became work, kind of. Oh, I've got these other 2 books now that I got to read when I finish this one. Oh.
Do you think knowing how much was ahead of you actually slowed you down?
A little bit, yeah. And that was another thing I was going to talk about was I told people that I'd started reading it, and all anyone ever told me was, oh yeah, that's that really long book series that's never going to get finished. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, well, I think by that point, was Knife of Dreams out by then? It was either out or coming out. And people were like, yeah, it's already like...
In 2010?
No. Like 2005.
Oh, 5.
Yeah.
We'll have to check the publication dates.
It was either out or about to come out. It was pretty close to that time. And they were like, well, it's like 9 or 10 books already, and there's no way, that...
And for context, if you're new to the community, for context, Robert Jordan was very sick at this point.
Yes, it was well known, actually. Even I was able to find that out just by Google searching Wheel of Time on the nascent Web 2.0 back then. So it was well known that he had his sickness. So that said, he had appeared at cons and seemed in relatively good health from
he
all
was
reports.
Still pretty dedicated to the community.
Yeah. Anyway, despite that, I put it down, couldn't pick it back up till 2010. Definitely, I think the news of his passing in 2007 also impacted me, because it's never going to finish now, was my thought.
Yep.
Even though I knew that he had done meticulous note-taking and outlining for someone to complete it in the event of his passing, I just thought that was never going to happen. I didn't know very much about, his media group, like Bandersnatch and all of them, being his longtime aides, Harriet being his editor and wife. I didn't know anything. I didn't know it was a family affair, essentially. So, I was just expecting, this is just going to be taken over by the publishing house, and it's probably, they'll do some test drafts and they'll throw them all out, and no one will ever want to finish it, because it's a thankless job. No one's gonna
oh, for sure,
be happy.
It's funny, when I saw that he had died in 2007,
mm-hmm.
Like you, I didn't know anything about the surrounding machinery,
mm-hmm.
Social machinery that produced the series, and Harriet, etc.
Right.
And I just assumed it was done.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the announcement that you're building up to came out, it totally caught me by surprise.
Right. So, anyway, I hadn't done anything until 2010, and then it was actually you who told me.
That's right.
That a new book had come out, and I was like, "What do you mean a new book had come out in 2009?" And you're like, "Oh yeah."
Wasn't that when my Dutch garage door opened into your living room?
No, this is before then.
Oh, this is before.
Then. Yes. So we were still living on campus.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So anyway, you told me that finally the 12th book of the Wheel of Time had come out, and I said, 12th book, that's supposed to be the last one, right? It's out, it's finished. And you're like,
it's done.
No.
Kinda.
Still more, but at least someone's writing it. And that got me slightly interested again. And then, like, literally a month later after you had told me that, because I hadn't thought about Wheel of Time in a long time by that point, Blind Guardian dropped a little album called At the Edge of Time, which featured not one, but two Wheel of Time based epic power metal anthems.
Yeah.
And just got me pumped to start reading the series again. So I was...
This isn't David Townsend, is it?
This is what?
Is that David Townsend?
No. Blind Guardian. They're a German power metal band. They actually made
okay.
They made an entire album based upon the Silmarillion back in 1997 called Nightfall in Middle Earth.
Right.
Yeah. Many people don't know, but they also play a style of music that a lot of people don't necessarily like. I happen to love it, given the wall adornments back there. So
I'll confess to being an outsider to the genre.
Yeah. Anyway, I was super pumped when I heard both of those tracks, and that actually was the catalyst for me just deciding I'm going to go ahead and get back into Wheel of Time. I'm going to finish Eye of the World at the very least, because I had started that book.
Yeah.
I didn't start over when I started reading it, by the way. I picked up right where I had left off in 2005.
Did you really?
Yes. No, I remembered everything.
Did you have any idea what was going on?
Yeah, no, I knew that Rand had walked the road with Tam and saw the Myrddraal. I knew that they had gone into town to drop off the brandy for Beltane.
By the way.
That's what?
The Myrddraal that you just referenced.
Yeah.
That's the faceless horror.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Of course. Yeah. To drop off Tam's brandy for. Is Beltane, right? Yeah, Beltane. I knew that Rand had Matt and Peter and his friends. I remembered Egwene. I remembered basically all the side characters. That's how well that. This is what I want to illustrate. That's how well Robert Jordan wrote that opening, because I didn't have to reread it. I remembered it 5 years after I read it. I literally cracked the book open, still had the same bookmark in it and everything, and started reading again. From that point, I remembered everything that happened. So,
in all fairness, reading his description of Beltane gave you more sensory information than if you had physically experienced Beltane.
Yes. I actually think I developed my own sensory experience for it inside my mind. So,
yeah. You honestly get that much detail.
Yes, which is fantastic, and also a drawback. We'll get into it a little bit later. So throughout that year, I ended up finishing Eye of the World, Great Hunt, Dragon Reborn, and then I slowed down a little bit because we entered senior year of college, so there was a lot more reading and papers and stuff like that through the senior year. I think I finished Shadow Rising within like 6 months in 2011 and got on to Fires of Heaven, and I think that one I finished early 2012 and moved on to Lord of Chaos. By the end of 2012, I had it finished. And I slowed down quite a bit by this point because I was working full-time, and I was just... I got a little bit fatigued. Right. I think I read so quickly I got a little fatigued. So... Yeah. Anyway, ended up finishing the series in 2019, just to cut the story short here, because we've been going on for a hot minute. And I've since reread Eye of the World and Great Hunt. So that's where I'm at. So haven't reread it.
Is this only your first reread?
Yes, only on my first reread.
Okay.
Yeah, I told you I didn't reread anything else. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You know, it's funny. I said I reread, like I did like 6 rereads. Mm-hmm. That was only up to Winter. I think I read up to Winter's Heart like 6 times, and then Crossroads of like Knife of Dreams, Crossroads of Twilight like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And then I just read the rest of them once.
Yeah. Because
I mean, I was an adult at that point.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, you destroyed Memory of Light in like 3 days.
I mean.
Yeah, you've been waiting for it for so long, so.
Yeah. There was a lot of like pent up. Anticipation for that, and it was like this, like as the internet calls it, the Sanderlanche. Mm-hmm. You know, because Brandon Sanderson finished the series, so on top of being handed a platter of storylines to wrap up in ostensibly one book, mm-hmm. he also is notorious for setting up a huge collection of plot lines that will just avalanche to a close all in a moment. And so both of those things together made A Memory of Light just this massive collision of conclusion.
Right. So there we go.
But yeah, I mean, that kind of draws you in to like 5 pots of coffee and a 20-hour binge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. Definitely. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at in terms of, my experience reading the series and you reading yours. And honestly, I don't think I would have gotten through the series without you there to talk with me about it and not... You knew when to pepper in the correct spoiler. Let me put it that way. Here's the thing. I think people are overly sensitive to spoilers nowadays.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't think they're all that important. What I think is important is knowing that there is a nugget of awesomeness along the way. And you know exactly which nugget to just say, oh, well, this happens. But, getting there, you've got to see how it does because it seems crazy, but the build-up to it is totally worth it. And in every instance, what you told me happens that was awesome is correct. The build-up was way worth getting to that moment. Better than the moment itself, actually. Which is, I was slowing down during the slog, but on...
Are we going to talk about that, or are we just going to...
So, I mean, people kind of consider books 7 through 10 a quote-unquote slog of the Wheel of Time, which I think is probably due to the fact that they were published all 2 years apart and they didn't progress the actual storyline all that much for the main cast. But they're the reason...
Baron!
Yeah. They're the reason the world is as big as it is. You don't really have...
I'll give you that.
Without books 7 through 10, we don't have as much of the White Tower inner workings as we think we do. We don't.
Yeah.
I do feel that Perrin's stories are a bit of a backpedal for him, but you get to see so much of his greatness just kind of come back and just multiply.
Yeah. Perrin could have... We're so down this rabbit trail right
now.
Yeah,
we are. We're 36 minutes in on my timer by my look, without any editing.
Perrin could have teleported from book 6 to book, 10.
Mm-hmm.
And, no, not 6. Maybe book, 7.5 to book 10.
Mm-hmm.
And other than him cutting a few... Well, that's a big spoiler. Other than certain events, I wouldn't have missed that much.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we just got to say that Malden is worth every single dragging Perrin scene.
Okay, yes, I'll give you that.
So
definitely.
I mean, it was a big payoff as far as I was concerned. So we'll see how I feel once I reread those books within the next year or two, and how I feel about it. I know some people out there reread these books like one book a week, and I'm like, well...
Which is insane!
I don't know how you do it. You must not work. Or have any other media that you consume in your life. So, not trying to do shots fired or anything. It perplexes me. It confuses me. So, well, let's see what else can we... That's basically our intro and our relationship to the series. I mean, thanks to the Wheel of Time and you, again, I found Sanderson, and I'm going through Mistborn now. I'm on book 3 of Stormlight Archive. I've done Warbreaker by him. I've got the first issue of White Sand back there I'm going to read. So, that's got me...
We're going to have to have a Sanderson playlist.
Right, yeah, eventually. So, I mean, the Wheel of Time has just been this fantastic thing as far as I'm concerned.
But this is the perfect time to talk about the Wheel of Time's place in modern fantasy, because popular fantasy was largely very stereotypical sword and sword, medieval Europe sword and sorcery.
Right. I mean, honestly, it's only now that in retrospect we're people are really coming to love Robin Hobb's Assassin Trilogy or Malazan,
Right.
And even Dresden Files. Like these are standouts that have been going on for a long time now, or have completed a while back.
Yeah. But the Wheel of Time really did a lot to kick that door open.
Right, yeah, but everything else coming out contemporary with those series was just not that. Let me put it let's say this. One of the most popular fantasy authors of that era was Terry Goodkind, and he is terrible, so there we go. That's what you had. That's what we had. It was that, or it was Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonlance, base novels. Some Magic the Gathering stuff peppered in here or there.
I mean, I read a good smattering of Forgotten Realms.
I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just saying it's
it was what it was.
90% of it. It's the 90-10 rule, right? Like 90% of it is derivative stuff that we've kind of all seen before.
Well,
not everything is Drizzt, right? Like it's not all Drizzt. Even R.A. Salvatore is very variable.
Yeah, Forgotten Realms was totally trying to play within a set sandbox.
Yes.
And, magic was magic in the old school sense. I mean, it was very, like, random, do this random algorithm, effect happens. Yeah, exactly.
Fireball! I'm gonna cast a magic missile.
So, you either had Gandalf, who's mysteriously powerful, and
when the story needs him to be. He's also mysteriously weak when he needs to be.
Yeah.
That's my only complaint with Gandalf. Other than that, I love him.
Yeah. Well, you had it was the era of generally soft magic systems. I mean, some of them just had hardcore Deus Ex Machina resolutions, but the good books of
Sword of Truth,
the earlier era, were just mythological soft magic, and so I feel like Jordan really, even though a lot of people will call, and rightly so, they'll call channeling a softer magic system by today's standards, it was probably one of the hardest magic systems of its time.
I mean, it has defined rules, and yes, do things happen with it that have never happened before throughout the course of the story? Yes, but they are explained through the use of the system that they happen, not that they just, oh well, I did this thing and something different happened because I have some innate power or talent. Yeah, that's not necessarily how that works.
Yeah, and you really get the sense, if you have yet to read it, or if you're still in anywhere before late Dragon Reborn, magic has not yet become what it will.
Yes,
but
agreed. Jordan's early books are very different from Shadow Rising onward.
What channeling becomes is this dual wellspring of infinite power, which, I love the way another spoiler, Perrin talks to wolves. That's a thing.
So, it's book one.
Hope you didn't listen to that if you didn't want to hear it.
It's book one, so, I mean...
That's fair. I thought it was 2.
No, it's book 1.
No, it is 1.
It's book 1.
You're right.
Yeah, it's book 1.
Okay, so, I love how the wolves describe the one power. Because the wolves are talking to Perrin and say something about an Aes Sedai, calling her she who touches the wind that drives the moon. And that is so evocative.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, to me, that tells me Jordan's conception of his world was that in the way that probabilistic resolutions of quantum mechanics literally drive and resolve our universe.
Yep.
The one power, in some sense, was the fundamental mechanic of that physical universe. That's the impression that I got. And there are some people who can directly touch this power and in like a dam or like an artesian well, in some sense, can allow it, can drive it to do very intentional things in the world around them. So early on, it's kind of old school fantasy. It's kind of old school magic where it's like the mechanism of that is kind of hand wavy. But by book 4, I think by book 4, you pretty solidly have this metaphor. Well, you have this mechanism of drawing thread, like, kind of visual threads of power and weaving, essentially kind of knitting a program, an algorithm of power that will give an effect.
Right.
And so then he runs with that description so well that, like you say, when someone does invent a new magic, a new effect, it makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Because he's good about not pulling them out of the hat, in unrealistic ways.
Right.
He sets those characters up to have reasonably figured that out. And honestly, you just feel like it's an engineer who was like, boom, invented this.
Right, yeah.
And so, I thought it was really well done.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I haven't seen very many people who really rail against the one power as a terrible magic system, though I have started to see some clamorings of it's not all that hard of a magic system. It's not allomancy. And I'm like, allomancy has the benefit of coming after channeling.
Exactly.
That's the thing, is you have to always take that in context. When we, like, Wheel of Time is the kind of the perfect modern fantasy and classic fantasy separation because of it's perfectly right in the actual transitionary period, and it totes the line between soft and hard magic systems. And even within the Wheel of Time, channeling is the hard system, and then like Tel'aran'rhiod is the soft system, along with Ta'Viren.
Oh, totally.
I mean, and Ta'Viren is just a straight up Deus Ex Machina. Like, but
are we going to touch the other magic systems right now?
I mean, we'll save them for probably a deeper dive later, but I just want to, just be like, hey, like, we have these softer ones, and they function very well. Even Ta'Viren, like, if you hate it, you can't sit there and deny that he doesn't set it up to work within the story. Like, he
didn't overuse it.
I don't think so. I mean, and even with when it does happen, like with Rand, like he walks around. It's not like good things happen to Rand. Random bad
Jesus
stuff.
Rand.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, I mean,
but
the whole,
I liked it. I thought it was done well.
Yeah, the whole like Zen moment on the mountain thing.
Yeah. That's the last book.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. Well, second to last book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the end of Gathering Storm.
Right.
So.
Okay, Tam was so well used in that scene.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
We're gonna.
Okay, that's all.
All right, there we go. Yeah, just get it out. Get it out now. So, but yeah, I mean, even like the Ta'Viren stuff, if he hadn't explained it like he did and built it the way he built, it would have just felt like, oh, that's Deus Ex Machina.
For sure.
It is Deus Ex Machina. But it has consequences. It's used sparingly enough through the story.
Yeah.
It's literally not used to drive any major plot points aside from Matt, because his Ta'Viren nature is luck, so literally it's just like always engaged with him, but it also, I think that drives hilarious points.
Oh yeah, Matt Cawthon solo.
I mean, it apparently has no effect on the golem because that thing always gets close to him.
Oh man.
So I mean, it's not it's not foolproof. I think he illustrates, even though Matt is super lucky, he definitely has very what am I trying to say here? Very vulnerable moments that I always felt he was in danger. For example, whenever he was placed in danger.
There's this weird thing with Matt where, okay, if Rand is the description of how Ta'Viren works, in that when you utterly embrace your role in the pattern, then you kind of fully manifest, the effect. You fully can harness or bridle the effect you have on the pattern. If that is so, honestly, Matt accepted his role in spite of what he says. Because what Matt says and what Matt does, belying what he actually thinks, are almost always totally different.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And, like, he's perpetually trying to convince himself of his grandiose persona.
Right.
Even though he's obviously not that person. And I would say, deep down, Matt was the first to accept, the details and the complexities of his Tavernness. So it kind of makes sense to me that his luck worked as thoroughly as it did.
I mean, that's true. He's the only one who really thinks, like, in his internal monologues throughout the series of, well, let me just, get my luck going right now and doing this, and then with the dice rolling in his head kind of element to it as well.
Did you literally, like, when you were reading it, did you actually have kind of a cycle, like...
Yes. No, I would hear
rumble?
As soon as he would say that, I would hear dice rattling in my head the entire time until he said, and they stopped.
Which was done so
yes,
well.
I know.
That, like, every time... I can't remember a single time where he used that effect of Matt's, and it didn't feel like the beat drop in a great song.
Agreed. I would definitely say that. I do want to take this moment to point out that for those of you who do not have very strong mind's eye / mental internalization of these things, I think both Drew and I have relatively strong versions of this ability when reading.
Did you know there are some people who literally don't have a mind's eye?
Yes, that's why I'm putting the disclaimer out there.
That's so bizarre.
Well, I mean, it's like it's the same for them that we would have one, right? So,
yeah. I mean, I'm not throwing shade. Like, whoever you are, I think you're cool. I'm fascinated by you.
Maybe they're the fast readers, because for me, it slows me down when reading, because I cannot...
Yeah, we've talked about this.
I cannot go back. I cannot just read and enjoy until I have the image in my mind. So I would actually reread sections 2, 3, 4 or 5 times if I was not 100% clear on it during my initial read. And I think that's part of the reason the slog slowed me down as much as well,
for sure.
Because he does up the clothing descriptions as well during that. He does. He describes...
If you're in book 2, he adds detail to those clothes.
Yes.
Hang in there.
They were already detailed in the early series, and it's obscene, honestly, later on, about how detailed some stuff gets. There's the repetition element as well, but for me that actually helped, because I didn't have to... because that became kind of a key for me, that I could just, this thing that's happened before is happening again. I can immediately visualize it and read through this and move on.
Yeah.
So that helped me out quite a bit. But, just, I'm a reader that if I can't get the scene fully visualized in my mind, I have to reread the section, no matter how long it is, until I do. So I either have to read relatively slow, or I have to read fast and do reread. So I tend to go for the slow method to allow everything to stew up here and develop. I've gotten faster as I've gotten older, but it's still kind of it's definitely a roadblock for me.
Yeah. I think reading Jordan in my formative years, it definitely shaped the way I consume. 'Cause like you're saying, you have to get the detail out of what he's saying, to visualize. Like, I don't think I would be as visual of a reader, even though, I'm a hyper visual person. So like math classes where I can literally visualize what's happening, I understand it almost always. Mm-hmm. But differential equations, there are a lot of things in differential equations, or in linear algebra, once you get beyond 3, 4, 5 dimensions of matrices, I'm just like, I fundamentally cannot see this, and I don't know what's happening anymore.
Right.
So, which I had a real nosebleed moment in linear algebra where I honestly think I saw a matrix interaction in like an 8-dimensional matrix interaction.
Oh, well, like the slow-mo stuff?
It wasn't slow-mo. Man, this is a rabbit hole, but I felt like...
Hold on. Before we go down this rabbit hole, we're at 53 minutes. I think we should go ahead.
Okay, so...
Let's conclude and wrap up, and we can move, come...
Description... description, like... Jordan's description, his repetition is a big part of the bulk of that. You know, he's constantly reminding you of these very sensory details. So that's a big part of it. And the clothes.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that. Honestly, it's a lot less of like, you know, places and buildings than I think some people will actually say. It's definitely clothes and sensory details, like you said, that are heavily repeated. So. Right. Well,
so yeah, that's a big back end on Wheel of Time's place in modern fantasy.
Yeah. And some other ramblings. So there we go. This is the first time we're doing this, so if it seems rambly, it's because it kind of is. But we're just super pumped
Welcome to the Gleemen.
Yes, we're super pumped. We're getting a TV show. We have a friend who's going through the series for the first time. We hope to get on here and kind of do a you know, maybe book by book or book section by book section breakdown with him, get his thoughts where he's at, and those will be spoiler free up to where he's at. So hopefully.
Do you want to give a teaser to what we're gonna ostensibly cover next time?
Well, what are we gonna cover next time? That's the thing, we haven't discussed it yet. So
okay. I thought we had.
Had we? Oh, but I forgot. We've talked about so many things. We're gonna do the magic systems a little bit more in depth then.
Yeah, next time let's just go ham on the magic system.
All right, sounds good.
We all love that.
Yeah, I'll have to go back through some of the books then and find some of my favorite sections, and maybe pull the companion off my shelf back there and crack it open too. So.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and hope you enjoyed this introduction / rambling video from the Gleemen.
All right, peace.
All right, peace out.